Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again. Thank you very much for spending some time with us today. Today, looking forward to a good conversation, some training conversation, some brotherhood conversation with one of my guests that I've had on before and his partner in kind of his training group that I have not. So today I've got Mike Bernard and Nathan Furton. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good.
So these guys are kind of the faces and voices of Midwest Fire Tactics and Training. We discussed it quite a bit when I had Mike on. I know that I definitely want to spend a little bit of time towards the end. Let these guys talk about what they're doing again for anybody that hadn't heard. But to just kind of get started, I'll start with you, Nate, since you're kind of on my screen first. But give us a little bio, whatever you want to give, and let everybody get to know you, and we'll move to Mike.
I've been in fire service right around 10 years. Small full-time department in the UP of Michigan. I stay relatively busy, good culture, good search culture, pretty aggressive in all of our modes of operation, and glad to be on the job and glad to be doing it.
Mike?
Mike Bernard, on a small department in northern Wisconsin. We're exclusively volunteer, and we run a pretty good volume, large tourist-based area, a lot of lakes, a lot of coverage. Starting to see a little bit of an increase with COVID and people living in their cabins more. Our department overall is pretty aggressive. We have a high standard, even though we're volunteer, with our SOPs and holding people accountable to it. So it's pretty cool. And when we do get the opportunity to go to work, we have squared away crews that know how to work and have a good aggressive culture built in.
So the first thing I am observing here, for anybody just listening, is Mike Bernard is wearing a hooded sweatshirt, which is very concerning to me because he's posted videos of him grilling literally in flip-flops in the snow. So what type of weather warrants a hooded sweatshirt for Mike Bernard right now?
Well, it's a little windy today, so
Okay.
it's been kind of damp a little bit. So I mean, it's been in the high 20s or so with rain and snow mix, and I think it's been pretty similar over by Nate too.
Yeah, we
had
an influx probably a week ago where we were in the 40s, 50s, and 60s at times, and didn't have to worry about much. And now this upcoming week, we're be turning on the pump house heaters and worrying about freezing up.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this much: my hooded sweatshirts come out around the 55-degree mark, so that'll kind of give you an insight on where I'm at. So 20 degrees and raining and wet, that's probably my worst case scenario weather ever. Hate it. So, but today we're going to kind of get into a little bit and like always, it's just going to go where it goes. And so we don't really kind of have a mapped out plan, but definitely want to start with the idea of iron versus iron and kind of the benefit of surrounding ourselves with like-minded firefighters. If you don't have the benefit or if you're not blessed with firefighters that are kind of like-minded, like that you could physically be around, hitting up some conferences and classes and things like that, and just what we can get out of all that. And so I'm definitely interested in hearing about these guys. These guys are very active in their training group and do some work with oath keepers too. So very versed in the art of going to conferences and look forward to hearing what they have to say. So just open it up right there. What I guess a good place to start is hearing from both of you on what you enjoy the most about going to conferences, what you get out of it that you most enjoy. So either one of you, go ahead.
Nate, you go first.
All right. Well, I guess started out, I first started going to conferences probably, I I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe. I started off a volunteer career. Still very volunteer heavy base around us. The big thing that I loved is it didn't matter where you were from. Honestly, as long as you go to these conferences, whether it be Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, the core Midwest regions. It didn't matter who you were, who you worked for. Everybody was just there to put in work, and it didn't matter. Like I come back to again, it didn't matter if you were running 600 calls a year or 6,000 calls a year. If you were there to make yourself better, people welcome you with open arms, and that's really there's some people within the training circuit and within the regional area that were better to me than they should have been. And that's why I started Midwest, is because I feel like it's my obligation and my job and our job as Midwest to put on this quality training in a grassroots style and just really bring everybody in and have that open conversation. Put our egos aside. That's the one thing that drives me crazy is, we're there to train, and I honestly could care less where you work as long as you're willing to help others and help yourself and put in the time and the effort. That shouldn't matter to me. I get the guys from the big cities. They get the experience a lot sooner than some of the small volunteer and career and combination departments do up in our area in northern Wisconsin. And to me, the conference scene, whether it be teaching or attending as a student, it takes that aspect out of, well, I work from here, I get this, I'm automatically given this much respect, where you show up to work and you're showing up to work.
Yeah. That's you, Mike.
It's funny because I started on the conference circuit because I didn't have anything else close to it. I mean, really for us in our area, it was all technical college. It was all out of the book training. And I started watching a lot of these videos and I started looking at a lot of these guys and I was like, man, if I could go learn from these guys, that'd be so cool. And I started researching and figuring out where these conferences were. And I started going to them and I was being shown stuff that just blew my mind. And it started becoming a regular thing for me because I'd never seen anything like it, but I knew I wanted to do it because I was getting better and I was putting that better commitment into them. And if I could bring that back and show my guys, that was huge for me. The cool thing was, and our background story is that Nate and I met at a conference. We were both students. We both happened to meet. And, previous to that, I was following the Midwest Fire Tactics page and we ended up being at the same conference and we started talking and we're like, hey, we're not that far from each other. And everything kind of took off from there. So you really don't know what kind of friendships that you're going to foster there. And also you truly don't know what kind of other people you're going to find there. Some of these conferences, and again, like Nate said, there's no egos, that there's no, I'm the instructor, I'm this, I'm that. I mean, we're all students. We're all there to learn. I mean, heck, we go to all these conferences and we learn more sometimes if, we're teaching and listening to people, as we would as students. Yeah. But you look at a lot of these guys who kind of fly off the radar and they're really not known. And all of a sudden they show up to these conferences and man, some of these people know how to put in work. And some of these people are just absolutely squared away solid firemen. And, talking with some of these other people who have training organizations, that's how they get a lot of their instructors, is that they find these people who have drive and that actually care about the job and start as students and work their way up. And, like Nate said, we've been very, very blessed and very fortunate to have people kind of put that chance into us and, say, here's your shot type of thing. And we hold ourselves accountable because, now Nate and I not only travel to teach, but we still travel as students and we still go to conferences because it's that pursuit of knowledge where you're climbing Mount Everest, but don't ever expect to get to the top, because no matter what you do or who you're learning from, you can always find different ways to do stuff. You can always work with each other to come up with new things. And again, there's something to be said about that outside training and kind of broadening your horizons outside of your department. And honestly, that's worth its weight in gold, because if you can learn that one little tactic, one little percentage point to bring back and improve what you're doing with anything at your department, I mean, it's massive. It's huge.
Yeah, that and just to kind of say right off the bat, I have taken off a good chunk of my career from all this stuff. Just when I was home, I had to be home, just family situations and lots of issues that I was dealing with. So I just didn't have the time, even if I wanted to do this type of stuff off duty. And so I have not really experienced, definitely near what you guys have experienced as far as the benefits of conferences. This year, I was really focused on getting back into it. Family is in a much better spot to where I can maybe pick a few times in a year to do something like this. And so I was just looking forward to it. Signed up for a couple different ones, and of course, the story. Most of the stuff got canceled, and I missed out on a lot of the things that I was looking forward to get back into. But we did just, I don't know, probably a month ago, have a small Fools event, a Fools conference in the Oklahoma City area, which is kind of the district or whatever you want to call it of our closest Fools location. And so I was able to help and do some instructing with that on the hot day. And man, like you said, Mike, you're learning more when you're teaching than just as a student. And that's absolutely the case. And that was really my first attempt at doing that. And so I to tell on myself, that morning I was sick. Like my stomach was in knots because I was nervous, and it's weird. I've been on 18 years. It's not like I'm trying to pretend to be some type of bringing out extensive knowledge. I was just doing basically a station of force of entry, nothing big. And it made me nervous because to me, that's a big responsibility. Those people traveled, some of them out of state, some of them several hours, spent their own money to gain some knowledge. And that fell on my shoulders for that station to be that person to give them that. And so that to me was a big responsibility. And so I really kind of, to play off of what both you said, if they're there, the men and women that are there at those conferences, they're there because they want to be, and because they're fired up, because they want to learn. And so there's no dragging anybody into it. They're ready to go. And so I think that's awesome, man. And I really like that part of it myself, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny you bring up that whole nervous thing, because anytime that I'm getting prepped to go do something, I find myself training more on that skill set or training more on those things because, like you said at the beginning, iron sharpens iron. And, that's the one thing, whether, I call up Nate and it's like, hey, you want to set up a weekend where we're just forcing or doing this or trying to make videos and things and just trying to fine tune it, because with what you're showing and stuff, you want to do good at it because you actually care so much about it. And it's not just kind of that turntable pitch of the month or fad of the month type of thing. It's built into that culture, and you want to really do tribute to it.
What do you got? Anything else to add to that, Nate?
Not pretty much. Yeah, I mean, we covered that. Mike's laughing. I'm not good at words. I'm more of
not
of
the
a
big
hands-on.
talker.
Yeah, more of a hands-on guy.
Yeah,
it is what it is. Yeah, it just it goes back, like you said before, iron sharpens iron, and I think with this whole, not to go down a rabbit hole, but with the social media, I think it has been an advantage to our career and our culture leaps and bounds. But I think also the negative thing is our egos, and circling back around to checking your ego is so many people they need to post on Facebook. They need to get those likes. They need to see how, well, I posted this, I'm doing this. Who's liking this? Why are we doing this? That's really not what any of this is about. It's not, I mean, at least if you're in it for the right reasons, and that goes, I feel like it's always a constant circle revolving around, the whole checking your ego to just bettering your craft. We have to truly get back to the reason why, and the reason why we're teaching people, and the reason why us, both as students and instructors, why we're putting in that time. And it's not to feed our egos, and it's not to get likes on Facebook. It's to make ourselves, our crews, and our fire service as a whole better, for our citizens, in whatever districts you guys protect and whatever we protect. I think there's a hidden agenda, and people are kind of losing sight of that. And I mean, that's what we're trying to, portray here and get across is, there's quality firemen doing quality fireman shit. And that needs to be the focus, is not us, it's them, every aspect of it.
So you say you don't want to go down rabbit. I love rabbit holes, and so we can go down any rabbit hole you want. But no, I love it, and that's probably one of the, I don't know what you want to call it, probably one of the base foundation pillars, whatever you want to call it, of who I am and the message I have is that humility, basically, just when it comes down to it, and it's not. I don't feel like it's something you either have or you don't. I feel like it's a continuous process of managing that, and it's almost like a loop. You have to have humility. You have to be humble to learn. If you're not humble, if you don't have that, you're not going to learn, because you know it all. Why would you learn anything new if you already know it all? So maintaining and gaining that humility is really the first step in learning anything, growing any of that. But at the same time, as you're growing, as you're learning, you're gaining confidence and all that. And that right there is kind of the breaking point, and that's the balance, because if you let that go too far, then you get overconfident, then you start getting complacent, and that's going to lead to failure and a lot of other things. And so it's finding that balance of having humility to grow and learn and keep on that upstretch, but at the same time, keep it in check, not letting it get too big so that you're losing ground as well. So yeah, I love the humility and the ego conversation for sure. And I totally agree. I love sharing videos and pictures of us doing stuff. And partly it's me kind of showing off my guys, my crew, because I'm proud of what they do. And another part of that is just to maybe inspire others to see, hey, this is what they did. Let's go try that, or whatever. And so I think we're all kind of on that same page of really being able to take advantage of what social media is doing for us, and hoping to kind of use that to almost magnify what we're doing out there. So I totally agree with it.
Yeah, just highlight, like you spin off what you're saying, highlighting the positive. You're not sharing you're sharing your crew, not yourself. And that's
Yep.
And it's not to, like you said, it's not to brag. It's to show, hey, like, we're out here doing this for you guys. Maybe, hey, on next Saturday, why don't you guys get your crew out there and send us a video of what you're doing, or post a video of what you're doing with your crew. If you're out there doing it by yourself, like you said, it's really the videos of your crew and getting your crew drills and multi-company drills. That's really where you're going to find that you're going to really benefit from that. And I think we all know that, but just something to go back on. If we add our crews to it, our ego's not in it.
I was waiting for Mike to say something. You look like you were going to say something, but
well, and it's funny
go.
because you look at what we're talking about with egos and stuff. And I think that the key point that you brought up is that humility aspect. I mean, it's a vulnerable feeling to film yourself on something and put it out there on social media. And we talked about this last time, having a place where you can post something and not get ego checked and not, hey, there's one way to do this. This is how I do it. God forbid you do it and don't get torn down. I mean, some of these places that, you can have a good day or a bad day with it. I mean, you got one guy who will post one video of doing something and just say, hey, personal achievement for me, just wanted to share with everybody, here's why I'm doing it. The next week you could have somebody literally doing the same skill and they ask for advice, and all of a sudden all the haters come out everywhere, like they've been waiting for it and they're frothing at the mouth, and it's like, oh my God, why would you do that? And oh my God, you're an idiot, you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to do this. And sometimes you don't even know who those guys are, you don't know why they're doing it, let alone who their support network might be. But they don't have that ego. They're willing to throw that out there and put that on there. I mean, there was a post a few months back where I started talking to one of the guys, and he was trying to throw 35 on his own. He was just legitimately asking for advice for guys who had done it, and he explained his reasons why and why he wanted to get better. Well, it's funny because I ended up, shooting him a message and just saying, hey, if you want to need help on stuff or tips or tricks, like, I'm no expert, but here's what I do. So then he sends me a picture, and it's a picture of his backyard, and it's Gary Lane, Sean Faust, and Brian Abbott sitting around his campfire. And I'm like, are those guys like, was that a conference? And they're like, no, they're kind of like 10 minutes down the road. They're all kind of neighbors. We all hang out. I'm like, dude, like, you have all the unicorns right in the backyard. Like, why are you asking advice from anybody else? And it's like, man, I just want to get better. I just want to keep driving and stuff. But again, like, you got a guy who's getting, coached by some of those guys, and it's unbelievable. But God forbid you go ask advice to anybody else. And, you have this open, safe space, if you will, that you have the expectation that people are going to say, hey, good job, maybe do this next time. Hey, good job. I understand why you're doing that. Keep going, keep trying new things. But it's just that ego check. And I think that there's a lot of validity for doing the videos. I mean, I video myself all the time, mostly because when I'm watching stuff, I can hold myself accountable to an unbiased party. I can watch a video and be like, God, I screwed up my hands on that throw, or I messed up my mask up on this. And like you said, I think that that's that, like Nate said, that's that one final point where you can incorporate your crews and get your crews into it, because it's really about them. I mean, especially as an officer, I mean, if you're driving them and pushing them to be better, and you can video them, like you said, to show them off because you're absolutely proud of what they're doing, I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I want to kind of touch on right there about that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's literally what I was going to say next. Is, I really appreciate the outlet that you guys kind of created, where it's basically, you could post whatever. It's a safe place, I think, is kind of the terms that we used last time we talked about it. And there are others out there, a good either Facebook pages or websites or whatever, that you can have some level of sense of safety of putting things out there. And like you said, legitimately just wanting some feedback or help or whatever. And that's really cool. And I really appreciate those places. But it was something else is, we're, like you said, for them is always talked about for the citizens. And I get that. But I also think that we need to use that term kind of like you were kind of talking about right there, is for our crews, trying to get them to the next level. I literally had a conversation, I talked about this Monday, but had a conversation very recently with my guys that, we were just in a slump. We were on a plateau. We weren't really going anywhere. And it was time to have one of those talks. And I told them that I am very proud of where each and every one of you are right now. We've come a long way, all of us, but this isn't where we're going. This isn't the finish line. It's time to gear up, to step up, and start that climb again and start kind of growing from where we're at. And so I think that's really, really good for us to focus on, is just being honest with each other. Hey, this is something I need to work on. Hey, I think this is an area that you might need to put a little bit of effort in. Let's go out and do it. All of that. And that leads right back to where we started. And that's why we're here talking about this, is making each other better, helping each other through the times that maybe I'm not motivated today, all those things. And so that is so important to me, especially, being somebody that's in charge of others. I feel it's my responsibility to make them better. And I love seeing people that are willing to do that.
Yeah, and I think looking at that, perfect example, I think going back, like, Nate just had a post where he threw a video of his crew up and they were working on mask ups and just wanting to get better and improve that. And, like you said, if you can empower those around you, and I don't necessarily think it's exclusively up to your officer in charge. I mean, you could have people who are 1, 2, 3 years on the job and, for whatever reason, they're going to conferences, they got into a good thing early and they might have something to learn. So I think having that officer empower those other people to really teach and learn and not necessarily alienate them for the information. I mean, having that knowledge base is really no good alone. And, I was guilty of that for a long time because I'd go to all this stuff and I'd come home and I really wouldn't get an opportunity to share it. But man, I was really making myself better and I was really getting solid. But man, we'd go do stuff with the crews and I would be doing something totally different. And they would just be looking at me like I was speaking Chinese because they had no idea what was going on. But slowly feathering that in, slowly getting that trust of your command staff on, this is what we're doing and these are the whys, and finally being given that yes and having an answer for, hey, yes, go do this, and having a plan and how to implement it and why it's important. I mean, it's those steps where that you can finally look at it and, just to also say, like, you look at your crews or you look at your department, it's like, man, we're in a really good spot. Some of the complaints that we have, none of these other departments would ever have a complaint like this because look at the challenges they're facing. And having squared away people, it goes back to that accountability level. And if you're holding your people accountable to a high standard and you want to set the bar high, I mean, there's nothing better to complain about these little nitpicky things because you have the understanding that on this broad base of basics and on this broad base of the skill set that's already provided and the knowledge, you're sitting really pretty. And that's a great feeling to have. But again, like you said, can still following in that pursuit of constantly getting better and how can we improve on things that we're already good at and make everybody better.
Any thoughts on that, Nate?
I mean, it's all solid stuff. I mean, we can, it's tough to expand, you know what I mean? We're all on the same page when, in our ideas and, the whole grassroots effort and our ideas in a whole. I think Mike hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. I don't want to keep putting you on the spot. I just don't want to cut you off and not give you a chance to talk. So at any time,
that's all right. I do this thing where I just run out of words anyways. So
that's all right.
If I don't say anything, y'all just keep going. It'll be all right.
No problem. Something else that is kind of, these talks as we're talking, just think different things come up and to go off of some kind of what you were saying earlier, Mike, is it something I've noticed here lately. So I'm lucky enough to be on the same department as several guys that solid forcible entry guys. They teach nationally, at different events. They're squared away. They know a lot, and I've learned everything I know forcible entry from them. And even that being the case, even that I have that knowledge and that training at my fingertips, basically, I have seen videos here recently of, and I can't remember his name. I think his last name is Perone, New York, FDNY guy. I believe the I won't say anymore because I don't want to say it wrong, but basically, he just has this little trick of where he flips the ads over and uses it in a different way that I've ever seen before. And so that just tells you right there that it doesn't matter how much you do things, how many times you go to these conferences or classes, or how many videos you see, there's always the opportunity to see something new that is worth trying. And so that I have really enjoyed just trying to kind of dig deeper into the details, to the weeds of skills and techniques. And because there's always somebody out there doing a little bit different, and you never know, it might be a way that, wow, that really makes a big difference to me. And sometimes it might not, but it's always a possibility for sure.
It's funny you bring that up because that's something that Nate and I talk about quite a bit. When we're going to these classes or picking some of the classes that we want to be students in, some of the things that we'll specifically hit or look at are from training groups that we know are like really squared away training groups, but they do things so differently than the one that we took previously. And that kind of flows back in how we teach, because it's not necessarily teaching the one way, it's giving all of these different assets and tools so that people can make informed decisions and choices for themselves. I mean, you don't always have to do something the exact same way every single time. Maybe it's a comfortability level, maybe the situation dictates it differently. But that's one thing that I know when we're picking out classes, we're always trying to get this broad base. And I think the key is, though, once you have these foundations down and once you understand where you're at and what you're doing, you can start toying around with a lot of those other things. But that goes back into the conversation of like muscle memory and making sure that what you're doing is just not even thinking about it. Like a 3-second knot, you shouldn't have to really mentally process what a 3-second knot is. It should just be there. You shouldn't even be thinking about it, and it should be tied before you're even looking back at that knot. And working through that and getting to that point. And, then once you're there, starting to branch off and do things differently, or look at how, a certain person does this or whatever it might be on whatever skill set. So.
Yep. As a kind of in my spot, this is something that we have talked about, my crew, and really focused on, and even in the future from this point, we're really going to focus even more on is we have our playbook, or basically your writing assignments, things like that. And my goal as a station officer is to do as much as physically possible on whatever scene we're on without saying a word. That is my ultimate goal. That means that I know everybody's doing the job that they're supposed to be doing without me having to put my hand in everything. I have the confidence and the trust that they're doing it, because we already have that all figured out, and we've trained on it. We know the capabilities of everybody, and so I think that's really another piece of this is working on the things that we do, or that I guess you say that we're asked to do on incidents, and getting to the point where what everybody else is doing, what you need to do, and you're going to meet in the middle when it's all done, and go to the next thing. And so that's something that I really have enjoyed working on as an officer, is just really getting into everybody knowing their job, knowing everybody else's job, so that we kind of have an idea of what's going on, and just you don't say anything, you just do it. And that's really something that I like as well.
Yeah, it goes back to training with our crew. We do things regionally different. Like Mike was saying, I mean, we go to, and to be quite honest, I'd rather be a student than be an instructor. But I almost feel like I'm cheating people. If I have this knowledge and I get something from a Brothers in Battle class, and I feel like I'm cheating somebody if I don't go back and work on my skill acquisition and work on the skill acquisition as a crew. And like you're saying, back to, talking as little as possible on the fire ground, our crew dynamics spun into skill acquisition. When all that comes together, I think that's just outstanding. You know, you pull a job on a crew that you've been working with on, say, search, like say you pull overtime, or you're volunteer going in and working with that crew, and the whole crew dynamic transfers over to the fire scene, and that to me is just outstanding when we can get all that to come together.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else, Mike?
No, like I texted you yesterday, like watching those videos and stuff, you know, you can see that you guys work a lot. I mean, just from watching you have your one guy on ladders pulling the 24 and the roof at the same time and going to the one spot clearly shows that you guys have that mission first attitude where you have a clear understanding of what we need to do or what we could potentially have to do, and it just flows. And you know, like Nate said, it's a beautiful thing when it's like looking at a piece of artwork, because if you know what you're looking at and you have the better appreciation, understanding of what those individual skill sets are to get to that point, and then also making it flow as a well thought out and executed team. I mean, there's nothing prettier to watch. And, you know, like Nate said too, being a student and all that and learning all that, it's fantastic because you learn those skills and reps throughout a weekend, and then you go to those final base scenarios, and then you can kind of see how that all comes together and flows together. But, you know, you guys hit the nails on the head with that, where if you can make that work effectively as a team, I think that's one of your biggest challenges. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you want to change something or do something new. I mean, yeah, that takes a ton of time, but man, once it comes together and you start doing that, even if it's just small goals for people, I mean, you know, going and teaching some of these people who maybe have never thrown a 24 by themselves and having them start on a roof ladder. And then by the end of the day, they're throwing a 24 by himself, and you talk to them, they're like, I never thought I could do that before. I never thought that this would be ever possible for me. And that's awesome, because look at the self-confidence and boost that you've given that person to now not only be a better asset on the fire ground, but be more confident in their skill set. So maybe they're going to try something else. Maybe they're going to see these mask up with gloves and be like, you know what, maybe that's something I can do, because look where I was on ladders. Now I can do this. So yeah, that's huge, especially when you have that happening within your own department, and you're pushing people to hold each other accountable to that.
Yeah. I think something that's maybe something else that's good to talk about and good for people to hear is something that I've kind of, I don't know, come to the conclusion on here lately. And it's the fire service. If you want to figure out, like, we're just talking about trying to figure out what to train on. If you just go into it with the mindset, okay, what do you want to train on? The fire service is so dynamic. There's so many different things that we are responsible for doing. I mean, you're talking about technical rescue and ladders, and fire streams, hose management, and force winch. I mean, you can go on and on and on. And personally, it can get very overwhelming. And just speaking for myself. And so something that I kind of decided is that, not that I'm going to ignore anything else, but I want us to focus on three things. And that's, number one, hose deployment, hose management, that type of thing. Anything to do with hose, I want us to be good at it. Number two is forcible entry. I want us to be good at forcing doors, windows, whatever it is, forcible entry. And number three is search/V, all that stuff. Those three things. I want us to be freaking solid as a rock in those three areas. And yeah, you can expand out a lot. Like, okay, you're talking about search. Well, you can get into VES with ladders, and you can make those topics broad as well. But I feel like me being able to nail down, these are the three areas we are going to focus on. We're going to spend the majority of our time working in these areas, because that's what I told them. I want to be very good at those three things. I want us to be awesome at it. And I think that is going to be very helpful because it just gives us a little bit more direction. Yeah, we're going to mix some other stuff in there. You know, we'll mix in some extrication or, you know, whatever, but that is the main focus of our time. And so I think that is going to be helpful to us, and maybe for people out there that do get a little overwhelmed on the variety of things that we should know how to do. Well, maybe it's time to narrow that down and get really good at some of the main things that we're going to do. I mean, do you, either of you have any thoughts on that?
I think focusing, you know, like you're saying, focusing on the three main things, like even if it's throughout the year, kind of lay it out like the raffle that we got going on. You know, the first, you know, put whatever, you know, 3 or 4 things and really focus on that stuff. I think, like you're saying, I think we get too wrapped up in while we can do high angle rescue and tech rescue and grain bin rescue and ice rescue, and I can tie whatever kind of knot upside down behind my back, but that's cool. Can you push a hallway, bro? You know, shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pick a couple topics, and even if it's as simple as, you know, maybe you guys, well, what's your pump discharge pressure? You know, you're pulling lines, you're pulling hose, but well, the app says to run it here. Well, sweet. Have you ever thrown a gauge on it? You know, I mean, I get we can split hairs with all this hose and stuff, but I mean, if we're pulling hose, we're practicing hose line movements, hose line management. I mean, why not? Why not know what we're running at? Maybe on an 1 3/4, we're way low or we're way high. You know, there's just, like you're saying, if we're gonna train, why not try to be the best we can be? And it might be a little step as small as, like I said before, dialing in our pump discharge pressure, making a pump chart. Where I'm at now in my career, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever way you want to look at it, I have to drive that thing sometimes, and I got a pump, and trucky brain here. I have my own little pump discharge thing set out for our pre-connects and our you know, our leader lines and what we can be running for different things, because like I said, I'm mainly a truck guy. I'm mainly searching and forcing and doing all that fun jazz. And when it comes time to do something, fortunately for myself personally, I have chosen the engineer spot to be something that I'm training on and something that I want to be good at. So in order for me to do that, something as simple as creating my own pump chart, because I haven't been on the job in that position long enough. Like somewhere like you, like you're now in an officer position. Well, you went up through those ranks, and you know this and this for your truck. You know, you got to pull here, pull, you know, set your pump pressure here, all that stuff. Like, that's something I'm not that good at. So that's something I make a point to every day, every morning I come on shift, even if I'm not driving, I mentally go through a fire every day, whether I'm working or not. And I'm getting to the point now where it's not so much where I'm focusing on circuit or split circuit who I'm working with, but if I have to drive, what am I setting that pump pressure at? What am I doing here? Okay, I got this set. What am I going to do next? Just small stuff like that can make or break. And I think, like you're saying, you know, 3-4 things. We get too caught up in broadening our horizon when we should be, you know, right here. And once we're mastered this or beginning to master this, those 4 topics, well, goddamn, this becomes obtainable once we master this. So, that's all I got on that for now, Mike.
You know, and it's good that we're talking about these foundations, because one thing that we recently added by me is we were donated a enclosed semi trailer, so we were able to modify the whole inside of it to be kind of like a RIT scenario / firefighter survival trailer. And, you know, it was amazing because we put rope lights in there and it's lit. We didn't have smoke or anything.
Stripper poles.
Yeah, fire poles. We 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 added those in there, but it immediately showed you where there were people who were confident and there were people that were not confident. And that immediately halts the training department and says, stop what we're doing. We need to go backwards and make sure that everybody is at the exact same level of comfort before we start moving on. Because now you take someone who's uncomfortable and you smoke it up or you do anything in there and they're already uncomfortable. And now you're going to make them more uncomfortable. So now maybe it's a matter of fact that they'll never train on it again. Or, you know, on some of those days, they'll go to something else and do something else because you're pushing them too hard and you're not recognizing where you need to reset and go back to the foundational work of making them comfortable with that stuff. And it doesn't matter whether it's, you know, crawling around and doing SCBA stuff or pulling hose or throwing ladders, but you can't just have the expectation that, you know, let's say you're on an engine and you switch all of your lays to something completely different, and that's going to be how it is across the department. And then, you know, no one's going to pull. Well, how do you get good on it? How do you know how to overcome adversity when you're pulling something and something happens? Laying out and flaking to a door or estimating your stretch. I mean, if you're not doing that stuff frequently, then it's going to turn into a soup sandwich immediately. And you know it's going to be on a fire. And now you're going to have a big spaghetti mess and you're going to look like a disaster. So if you have the expectations of those foundations and everybody is on the same page on what they need to work on with their self-mastery, like Nate said, then you take it from that bottleneck of those foundations and you slowly open the gates and you can start improving on that stuff. I mean, it's those basic skills that are going to get you through. And it doesn't matter at what level advanced class you're going to be. I mean, when you're looking at advanced, you know, I think it was somebody said that Jim McCormick said the only thing that is advanced about any of the basic skills that we do is when you add smoke and fire to it. So, you know, that's with my background, it was the same thing when teaching diving, you know, whether it would be an advanced class or a basic class, you're all based off those foundations. But you start looking at those advanced classes and all the skill sets that they teach, they took out all the different basic skills. So, you know, why a certain level of diving would I be still taking my mask off or working through flooded mask drills? Well, isn't that a basic skill that everybody should be doing? I mean, if you're expecting the baseline to do it, you should be really good at doing it at the advanced level. It's the same thing with firefighting. I mean, if you're working on mask ups, you should have that expectation for yourself and your crews that if you're going to push people to the standard, that no matter at what point you're doing it, whether you're working on advanced stuff or not, when you go back to that skill, you should be right around that time mark that you set and established, regardless of if it's year 1 or year 20.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's kind of two ways of looking at what you're talking about as far as, you know, not putting somebody in over their head right away, all that. I think if you're looking at it from the perspective of the instructor, the person teaching or whatever, that we really need to focus on kind of meeting these people where they're at. You know, like you said, not just slamming them, and basically the whole training to fail or failure training, whatever you want to call it, that's not going to work. And so, yes, you know, finding maybe a crawl, walk, run, or whatever we need for whoever we're talking about. Some people are going to be in good shape and we just kind of keep moving from there. Some people we're going to have to kind of go down a step or two and meet them where they're at and bring them back up to an acceptable level. And so from that angle, but from the angle of us personally, when we're talking about being a student or just being a firefighter that needs to work on things, we've got to be honest with ourselves. I think I said it earlier too, but be honest with yourselves about what you are good at, what you're bad at, what you need work on. And at that point, that's just the first step. And what seems to be the harder step for a lot of people is doing something about it. You know, get out and work on it. And that's something that I really want to see from people. I don't expect perfection from anybody. I mess up all the time on pretty much anything we do. I don't expect there not to be mess ups, or I don't expect there not to be weaknesses, but I want somebody to have a personal drive and personal responsibility to find those areas and put the effort in making them better. And that's really important to me. Just being honest with yourself, figuring out what needs to be worked on, and putting that time and effort into it, reaching out for help, whatever it takes. And that right there makes a big difference between somebody that is a minimum company standard person, a check the box and I do nothing else person, and somebody that really goes above and beyond and takes it to another complete level than they may even not even think that they could get to. And so those are big things to me. Is that's what I'm looking for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said, it's just, I think it's like you said, recognizing and being able to do that, especially with the experience level that you have, and working with what you got. I mean, if we're talking about rabbit holes and stuff, depending upon your academies or depending upon your technical colleges and stuff, are we really turning out the best firefighters that we can be? Are we really setting them up for success? And when you look at it, I mean, we sit and argue all the time about, Jones and Bartlett or whoever. And the question is like, well, how do you untrain that in people? How do you teach them the right thing when it's been so ingrained into them that the only way that we search is this way? The only way that we can throw a ladder or butt a ladder is this way. The only way that we're going to fight fire is, developing these training scars of penciling the fire while we're in the fire room because we got to keep it going for the next group. And that's the tough thing, is that if you're really doing right by those people, is it's, I don't want to say untraining them, but showing them those different avenues on what's going to work and what's not going to work. And it's really hard when we have this foundation that's been solidified in us at your most entry level, that you're being taught some of these certain things that potentially could stick with you for your entire career. And whether it just be dumb luck, or you've never really been put into a situation where you've had to make those decisions on the fly to do a split search versus holding on to your buddy's boot and just crawling through a hallway in a crawling fashion versus a tripod. And it's really hard to train that out of people, but seeing the epiphany in those people where, oh my God, there is another way. Oh my God, there is something different. I think that a lot of us take that for granted because we've been on this track for so long, or like we were talking about earlier, we surround ourselves with like-minded people for a reason, because we're all on the same page. We all know what we're doing, and we all know why we're here and why we're improving ourselves. And when we look at these other new people too, I think that's where it's kind of easy to tear some of these people down or make fun of them, because it's like, oh my God, you're still searching like that. What an idiot. Why would you do that? Instead of being like, you ever want to train on that? Do you ever want to see why there's differences? Or pulling up some of the data. Why wouldn't you pull up the data and show them, hey, if we VES or if we do this, these are other ways to find victims, and these are why they work, and why the way that you're doing it is ineffective and inefficient.
Yeah. I think to sum that up is just respect, having the respect for somebody to not, belittle them and go in the whole, I can't believe you're doing that, like you said, but to say, hey, oh, I see you're doing it like this, or I saw something that kind of led me to think that maybe I can help you out and show you something that you might not have seen before. Are you interested in that? Whatever. Just treating people respectfully. I mean, golly, it doesn't seem like something you should even have to talk about, but I think maybe nowadays you do, and just entering a scenario like that with, again, going back, being humble and offering some help in a respectful way, and doing your part to make the fire service better. It's basically in a little bow. That's basically what you're doing right there. And so, yeah, I like that for sure. You got anything else, Nate, on that? Okay. I just like asking you now, but
Yeah.
you know, we started this kind of talking about, you know, the brotherhood and using each other to keep you fired up, and something I know Mike has experienced. I don't know what Nate has experienced as far as it, but let's talk about these people that go to these conferences, that are hungry to learn and broaden their knowledge and just seek out growth. That's awesome. That's great. They get it. They're fired up. They can't wait to come back to the station. And then what happens exactly the second they open their mouth at the station about all the stuff they've learned? There, chances are sometimes they're going to get shot down, and they're going to experience, you know, a lot of just getting beat down. That, hey, why are you even talking about that? That we're not New York, or we don't even have the equipment to do that, or, you know, we've never done it like that. All those type of things. It just happens over and over again, and all of that drive, all of that passion that was built up throughout that weekend or that week is just completely blown up right away. And so definitely, Mike, if Nate, you got anything kind of personal to add to that, but Mike, what are some ways that you have kind of kept that going, kept that drive going, even if you are kind of hitting a wall, even if you are kind of getting some beat down from it? How do you keep going?
Go to more conferences. That's, I mean, honestly, like whether if you're going as a student and you're going to conferences you want to go to, it gets down to a point, and I'll just speak from personal experience. I started request to go to conferences, and then I found out that there's this word called a budget, and if I didn't approve stuff a certain ahead of time, I couldn't get on the budget. So, you know, I was like, well, it is what it is. But I didn't want to limit myself because I couldn't get paid to go there. And it might not necessarily always be feasible for everybody, but if you can budget yourself around going to that conference, you can go anywhere you want, and you can go to whatever conference you want. And I think by going there and talking to people and being around those like-minded people, that's that shot in the arm of that motivation that's going to keep you grinding for another 6 months or another year or whatever it might be. And that's where I talk about a lot, bleeding that enthusiasm into the others around you. You can't be so brash with it where it's just like, well, this is the only way and this is the way we got to do it, because you're just going to shut people down with it. But whether you're training on it in the bay by yourself, whether you're slowly doing it and you slowly bring those groups in, you know, that's how you keep going, because then you can start kind of spreading to those other people. And you know, that's the difficult thing, is if you don't have the opportunity to go to the conferences, or you can't afford to go to those conferences, honestly, you really don't know any better until you start finding other people on social media like that, and surrounding yourself with those people, and joining those groups and those pages. And it's difficult because, again, like, you might reach out to a person that you only know through social media, but they're going through similar things. You know, I get texts or phone calls all the time with guys that are going through stuff, and it's like, well, how would you handle this? How would you do this? And, you know, you have to realize that you're a part of their support network at a certain point. You know, they
Yeah.
might not have that at their own department, and there's nobody that they can really go to. So, you know, trying to develop that and eventually become that person for that support, and vice versa. If you need to reach out and you've got a really good friend that you can talk to, they might not even be from your own department, but surrounding yourself with like-minded people like that, and continue to train, continue to work on stuff, because I mean, it really sucks when you have to go through training after training, or month after month of getting kicked in the pants and constantly getting shut down. And, you know, you're just so passionate about the job and what you do that you keep getting shut down. It makes you question a lot. Like, you know, why am I here? Why am I even doing this? Why am I wasting my time if nobody's going to listen, or no one's going to help me with this stuff? But rest assured that if you're at a department where you can start working with some of those other people, or you can start just by changing one person's mind, or just by getting one person to follow you, eventually they're going to see that you're going to build this group around you. And again, it might take time, but you have to realize that even if it takes 5 or 10 years, that's a short amount of time compared to how long the fire service has been around. And if you're really truly going to leave your mark for the people coming in behind you, it's setting those foundations and just staying true to getting that change accomplished. And that in turn keeps your motivation driving, because it's those little benchmarks in your career and your life that are going to keep you going. And I think that that's hugely important. And I don't know what Nate has to add to that, but that's just more my personal side of things.
Yeah, so this is kind of goes into the tangled web that we weave ourselves in, and how all this shit comes back around full circle, back to our ego. I started going to conferences, and we talk about getting our dick handed to us when we get back. I was that guy that got back to the conferences, and I realize it now, and I've confronted the people, and I've confronted myself on this, and I was that guy, came back, and whether it be split search from a certain individual down in the metro Atlanta area, I bring that back to here, and I was like, fuck you, you guys are doing this wrong. We need to do this, and go, 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 go. And talk to some of the guys. I'm more of an easygoing, I don't get worked up kind of person, but I found out real fucking quick that that ain't how you get shit done in the fire service. And
Yeah.
it was it took me a while, and it took me meeting some people, and like I said, people giving me a chance that probably shouldn't have. And I'll forever be grateful to that. But the old I think he refers to it. I'm gonna paraphrase here because, like I said, I'm not good with words. The 10%. If we come back from these conferences and we're balls to the walls, and we want to rip up the floors and just fucking go nuts with this shit, and maybe we go 10% every day. We slowly push on that wall, and we push on that wall, and we push on that wall, and sooner or later that bitch is gonna fall over, and you're gonna start getting through to people, and you'll start making change in your organization. But that 10%, we push on it, and then you're not perceived as the guy that just is always default aggressive, and which isn't a bad thing by any means. But that's what really got through to me is I had to take a different mindset and a different approach to it. Coming back from these conferences and meeting these people and talking with these people, is the information that I've gained. I had to scale it back when I got home, because I know I got written off by a lot of people at first, and I probably still do, and that's it is what it is. But like I said, if we can just slowly push on the culture every day, 10%, 15%, whether that whole culture of change be the 1 to 5 year mark, if we're constantly pushing on that and slowly feeding little nuggets into our system, eventually that mindset will change, and I'll be all right. What's going on at these conferences? What's this guy talking about? Let's look at this stuff. Holy shit, he was right. Maybe, let's see what this guy's got going on. Let's see what this person has going on. Let's see what this region is doing. But yeah. that was my takeaway from coming back from the conferences, and on my personal level, get my ass handed back to me. When I got back, I have to take a scaled down approach back to the nuggets that I'm giving people and the nuggets that I'm giving myself. In return, the full circle is checking the ego when you're coming back. You come back, and whether you want to admit it or not, you come back from a place like Oath Keepers, and you're on top of the world. You just learn how to kick ass and take names with a cigarette hanging out of your mouth and a fucking Red Bull in your hand, and you don't give a shit what anybody says. But it needs to be scaled down, and you need to look at it from other people's angles, I guess. And like I said, that mantra of that 10% every day, pushing on that wall, and eventually, bam, all you need is 1, 2, 3 guys in your department, in your region, maybe in your county, and it's from there, it's game on. You know, the sky's the limit after that. Once you get through and realize you're not doing it to be detrimental to your department or say that, hey, you were doing this wrong, or hey, that was wrong. It really is game on from there, and the sky's the limit. So that was my takeaway from coming back and preaching to what I've learned from these conferences, and that pretty much sums it up. But yeah, the whole 10% mantra is really helped me work through it and work through why people aren't listening to me, and maybe I should just chill out, dude.
That's some great points. Something I really like that I've heard, and I think it's John Dixon who said it, is changing culture. Culture is basically like a giant ship, you know, a battleship or a carrier or whatever, a giant ship. And changing it is basically, and I'm screwing this up. I know he said it a lot better than I am, but changing culture is basically like turning a ship with a tiny little rudder. You know, you have this giant thing that you're trying to maneuver, and all you have is a tiny little rudder to make that movement, that change. And so it's just a slow process, and that absolutely goes along with what you're saying. I think something else that goes along with what you're saying is it's totally dependent on where you are in your organization too. You know, if I'm a fire chief and I go to these things and I bring back stuff, well, it's very easy for me to make changes because I'm the fire chief. You know, if I'm a battalion chief, maybe I have a pretty decent chance of making changes. If I'm a captain, maybe I might, maybe I don't. You know, you get down to being a firefighter, and your pull in that organization, it's going to be hard for you to make really good positive changes yourself. You know, there's going to have to be more of a process the lower you go. So looking at it from where I'm at, you know, I'm a station officer. I will probably throw out a number there. I probably have a 5% chance of making some big change in my organization. Just taking a guess. But what I can do is I can make those changes in my crew. I can make us as solid as I can. I can make us get to as high of a level as I possibly can to work on the things I know we need to. You know, all those things. I can bring back whatever I've learned, and I can do it at that level. And so maybe that's kind of where we need to focus is wherever you're at. Even if you're a firefighter, even if you're a new firefighter, you can do something to make some changes. It might not be dramatic, huge changes, but you can do something. And anybody out there, and this is kind of my challenge to anybody listening, anybody out there, I don't care if you've been on a month, I don't care if you've been on 30 something years and you've got some type of chief attached to your rank. You have something to give. And I've said this over and over again, but you have something to give at every level, every experience level, everything. The fire service needs you to give it. We need you to give what you have, and whatever that is. I don't care if it's just, I don't know anything, but I want to learn and I have energy and drive. Well, that is needed. You know, even though you don't know anything, just kind of passing that energy and that drive to others is so critical. And so that's really, this whole kind of conversation leads to that for me, is just we all have something to give. And if you don't know what that is, maybe you need to do a little reflection and figure out what that is. But we all need to start stepping up and giving what we have to give, because that's how we're going to make all of this better. So that's really, you know, to kind of play off of what you were saying, Nate. That's kind of what I get out of that myself. Mike.
Well, and at the end of the day, I think that's important too, because you look at it, water boils from the bottom. That's a
Yep.
quote that floats around a lot. And that's where, again, even if you're saying, well, I might only have a 5% chance of getting something instituted, boy, tell you what, if you could be the best crew for the best shift out of your station, people are going to notice that. People are going to notice how squared away they are. And instead of that 5%, you've now detrimented the organization by having them say, man, what is he doing differently? Why is his crew so solid on these fires? Why are they training so much? Why do they want to be at the station so much? And now you took that 5%, maybe you change it to a 95% just because you're not looking, like we talk about, you're not looking for that clickbait. You're not looking for that hashtag. You're not just posting videos because you want to get sponsored or get this free stuff. You're doing it because you want to be better and you want to make your crew better. And you're not even doing it necessarily with the intention to change everything in the department, but you're changing what you can within your span of control. And by doing that inadvertently, you might have top people come down to you and be like, how can we do this at a higher level? How can we do this across the department? What would your recommendations be? And that's one thing I talk a lot about. Be prepared for that yes, because I feel a lot of us get so used to being told no that we're not prepared when we get told yes. So you have to be prepared that, holy cow, they're giving me this shot. They're giving me this one opportunity. Have a plan so that if they do give that to you, how would you do it? And don't sound unprofessional about it, because if you're just shooting from the hip, they probably are going to be like, wow, he has no idea how to institute this and how to make this work for the whole department. But if you're prepared for it and you can articulate how you're going to do that, man, I mean, you could have that change department wide, and that's massive, regardless if you're a small department or if you've got a department that's got 20 stations. I mean, that's where we talk about that long lasting effect for the next generation coming up behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, to maybe kind of start summing up all of this and kind of wrapping up, I think that if you are somebody that is wanting to do better, you're somebody that's wanting to grow, you're wanting to learn constantly and get better every day, that's something that we have to protect. Because speaking from experience, personal experience, and I've been honest about this before, I have been in the down slides. I've been in the low parts of that roller coaster that I wasn't motivated to do anything. I wasn't somebody interested in training unless I had to. I've been there. But I will honestly say, now that I'm on this side of it, I have so much more fun, enjoy the job so much more on this side of it. Being excited to train, being excited to learn and to grow. I enjoy the job so much more. And so, speaking to those out there that are on that kind of that higher side, it's really something that you have to try to protect. And to do that is exactly what we talked about. Go to whatever you can. If you don't have that availability to go to classes or conferences, then start reaching out to people that you see on social media that you kind of like what they put out, people that put out things that really speak to you. It's I just if I see certain things that people write, I very quickly find out, hey, this person I really think is pretty much on the same page as me, or this person, they like other things I'm not really as interested in. Not that they're doing bad stuff, but it doesn't speak to me as much. But really focus on reaching out to those people and just using that as maybe a way to get you past whatever is going to bring you down, just keeping that going. And so that's really something else that I want to throw out there as a challenge to anybody listening is if you are doing good and on that upswing, you've got to do the best you can to protect that, because it's a commodity that comes and goes. And if you don't protect it, it can go very quickly.
You can definitely lose it in a heartbeat. But like you were saying, reach out to these guys. I like that's how Midwest started. Is I was in a downswing, and I don't even know how I found out, but I'm like, man, this Oath Keepers Fire Conference, man, this is dope as hell. And I went by myself. And like you were saying before, man, I was sick to my stomach. I'm like, holy shit, I'm nobody from nowhere, and I'm gonna start. We're gonna be taught by these guys. Holy shit, I'm in trouble. And then that downswing, I was in such a negative mindset. Lecture night just started to climb from there, and our mindset can get toxic, and we can get in that downswing in a hurry. But the beautiful thing about social media now is all it takes is to go to these pages and give ourselves that little positive nugget every single day. Because if we, like you're saying, if we don't protect our culture and our mindset, things can get Western in a hurry, and we can either fix it and move on and have a good career, whether it be paid or not paid, or it can go bad, or it's either way. Either side of the fence is what I'm trying to get at here. And like, just to spin off what you're saying, it's up to us to protect our mindset and our culture, and we really gotta use social media for what it's worth today.
Yeah. Anything from that, Mike?
No, I totally agree with what Nate said. And, it's been a breath of fresh air when I have people close to me within my department that kind of had that toxic attitude, and all of a sudden they dropped off and they were just pissed off at the world and whatever. And to see them rise back up, and it doesn't happen frequently, but you might get those one or two guys where it's just like, they're just not motivated, they're not coming to stuff, and whatever occurs in their life where you can see them rise up and do so much good with where they're at, and get that motivation back. I mean, that's where, again, like within your own departments, you might have those individuals who are not motivated and just not doing what they were normally doing or used to doing. Granted, it's not everybody, but maybe they are watching you. Maybe they're watching somebody else, and you're maybe that catalyst for the positive outcome on where they could get back to. And, that's hard to maintain, because everybody's got problems in their life. Everybody's got problems on the job. And it's just a matter of trying to get back to that and staying positive and motivated for it. And like Nate said, even if it's just one little thing a day, one small percentage, getting back to it. I mean, do whatever you got to do to stay motivated and keep that fire burning, because once you start letting that passion go, it's like Nate said, just that toxicity that you get in your own head about, and it's difficult to get away from that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to fire conferences.
Before we go, yeah, there you go. Before we get off here, I definitely want to let you guys kind of plug your website. Do you have a website, or is it just Facebook?
Just Facebook. I'm a low tech man in a high tech world. We don't do.
Oh, gotcha. So,
and Instagram,
like
and Instagram. Don't forget Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Like
Instagram.
we talked about with Mike in his first episode. You guys are doing a awesome thing. Got the challenge, is a quarterly challenge. Get out there, put a video out on the topic, and then later on in the quarter, put another video out of kind of where you're growing and all that. And I can't say it enough. I think that it's an awesome idea. I hope that things are going well for that whole process, so that it can be kept up, because I just think things like that are so important to just kind of give a little bit of incentive to somebody to do something, whatever it is. It's free. You guys are very open about it being free. It doesn't cost anything. And so if, whatever you guys want to talk about, and let everybody know where they can find you and find that, and go.
like we alluded to before, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. The caveat that I'd like to add in here before we close stuff up is, we teach these things, and now we're starting to get these opportunities to go other places and teach. None of this shit's new. We got books in the fire service 200 years old, and it all comes back around to what they were doing then is what we're doing now. I find, like we've said before, find pages, find groups, find people that are pushing this stuff out, because if we learn it from them, they learned it from somebody else. Like we're
Yeah.
none of this stuff is new. So don't get caught up so much in the this is mine and this is mine and the me culture that we can find ourselves into. Just find good people, find people on social media that are doing it for the right reasons, like you said, the same mindset, the same values, and the same goals that you have, what you were talking about earlier. Just there's good people out there, and it doesn't matter how small of a department you're on. When I started going to trainings, I was in a department with 5 people covering
Yep.
50 miles, 50 square mile. I mean, I was like the epitome of why am I here? If we start from somewhere, there's no saying where you can go. You just have to start. You just have to start going to classes and start with that positive mindset and that positive change. And I think I hate to keep repeating myself, but it all comes back around. And social media has been a lifesaver for a lot of people in the fire service in those negative mindsets, or trying, getting back into the positive mindset. So again, hit us up on Facebook if you have any questions. Facebook, Instagram. Mike probably does. Mike does a lot of that social media shit. I'd be real. We bounce ideas back and forth for the Sunday, the gospel we put out. It's not a gospel. I mean, some people read it, some people don't. He likes to get a little long-winded sometimes, but we go back and forth with ideas, but yeah, just find people that you can relate to, or even if it's an odd concept, like Colin Kelly. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm out on the West Coast, but he has the same mindset that I would like to have. And his mindset for training, or the boys down in Ohio or the boys in West Virginia, like we all have that same mindset, and we all met at conferences. We were all students at conferences, and we're still remaining students. So I guess that'll be my closing thing is, no matter what, keep that ego in check and remain a student. Always remain a student. With that, I'll just thanks for everybody that let us get to this point. And I thank you for bringing us on, and that's all I got.
About you, Mike? Anything to sum up or end with?
Don't be afraid to reach out. Like Nate said, we all started somewhere. You might be brand new, you might be somewhere in the middle, or you might be towards the end and you need something. We are more than happy to talk to people. We are more than happy to give advice, whether it's right or wrong. That's your choice to figure out after we give it. But we'll talk to you. Like we will spend the time to write your messages back. If you have questions about, training or anything, just hit up our Facebook page, or, find us on our personal pages. Sometimes I can't even keep up with the friend requests, but I do the best that I can. So, if you hit us up and shoot us messages and talk to us, or, you need advice, we'll do the best that we can, because we're just like anybody else. We're just guys that are out here grinding, training, and trying to do the best that we absolutely can. And yeah, conferences, go to them, get outside of your department, get outside of that kind of closed set mindset, and go find other things to do. Go find the other people, because you might have the opportunity to give yourself such a different support network, such a different group of lifelong friends that you can rely on, and you can talk to, and you can bounce ideas off of. And that's huge, because that's going to keep you going and keep you driving. And, you know, if we're got to talk about it a little bit, but if we're fortunate enough to continue running our quarterly challenges and stuff, and you need somewhere to post videos or work on skill sets or ask questions, it's a great opportunity to do it. And just, it's all about improving and getting better. And you might win some cool prizes, but otherwise it's $0. We're looking for hard work. That's all we're looking for. So I wonder who won the third quarter.
I don't know. Pretty lucky guy, whoever it was.
But no, I just want to say thank you. And like Nate said, you know, we definitely don't say it enough. We're very fortunate and blessed that people gave us a chance. And, you know, it'd be so hard to thank them individually, but we always want to thank the people who took the time to put the effort into us, because we would not be here today without those people. And it's from that tying it all together. It's from going to conferences and talking to people. And, you know, thanks again for having, you know, not only me on, but we were able to get Nate on this time, because what you're doing here is a fantastic thing, and showing how everybody else, how you're grinding and pushing your crews to new levels, and just giving everybody this platform to talk about stuff. It's awesome, because it's positivity, and it's what we all need more of.
Appreciate it. I'm glad that it worked out today. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing that I threw at both of you guys. And so I very much appreciate being able to talk with you and your time here today. So thank you very much. As always, look forward to getting to know you even better, and seeing what's in the future, and just working with you more. So thanks again. And at that, I will talk to everybody later. I hope that you have a week, and until next time, stay safe and take care of each other. Thank you.